When 4-month-old Nathan, born in the winter of 1904, started making sentences, people began to refer to him as a child prodigy. He is the offspring of wealthy German Jewish immigrants Florence, née Foreman, and Nathan Leopold. When he was 19, he had already graduated from the University of Chicago with the highest academic honor in the United States, Phi Beta Kappa, and had an IQ of 200. It was said that Leopold had studied 15 languages and could speak 5 of them fluently. His work in ornithology also earned him widespread renown. Hello again, and thank you for tuning into the Hallmark History Channel, where we investigate the most intriguing and puzzling events in human history. We'll be discussing the case of Leopold and Loeb, which rocked the world in the 1920s. Intriguing and shocking, this story is a true crime classic in the United States. It follows 2 young men who, despite their advantages in life, money, intelligence, and social status, choose a life of crime out of a desire for excitement and the thrill of the perfect crime. What began as a perverse game, a challenge to demonstrate their superior intellect, ended in a heinous act that shocked the entire country. The case of Leopold and Loeb serves as a chilling cautionary tale about the depths to which the human mind can sink when deprived of basic human comforts. Prepare to be riveted as we unravel one of the most intriguing and mysterious true crime stories of all time, and travel into the twisted minds of Leopold and Loeb. Leopold became close with another young Richard Loeb with whom he went to school and played. Richard Loeb was born on June 11, 1905, in Chicago to a wealthy lawyer and retired Sears, Roebuck and Company Vice President Albert Henry Loeb and his wife, Anna Henrietta, the child of a Jewish father and a Catholic mother. Loeb was brilliant, just like Leopold. His favorite genres were crime fiction and historical fiction. When he was 12 years old, he enrolled in Progressive University High School. His 2-year high school education was accelerated thanks to the support of his governess. At age 17, he graduated from the University of Michigan as its youngest ever student. After finishing his degree in Michigan, Loeb attended the University of Chicago to study constitutional history. Before the murder, he was planning to pursue graduate studies in history. Loeb lacked Leopold's rigorous intellect. He spent a lot of time with friends, on the tennis court, and with detective novels. They both became fascinated with philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche at a young age, in particular with Nietzsche's theory of the Übermensch, one who goes out of his way to force his own morality on others. An extraordinary human being. The 2 friends were so taken with the idea of superhumans that they considered themselves to be among them and thus above the law and morality that normally applied to humans. In a letter to Loeb, Leopold admitted as much. Because of his superior abilities, a Superman is exempt from the norms that govern regular people. He can act however he likes, and it won't come back to haunt him. Of the 2 genius boys, Leopold was the more introverted and bookworm-like while Loeb was the more gregarious and sociable. They were able to support one another and develop a close relationship, eventually leading to sexual intimacy. The 2 then put their philosophical theory into practice with a series of petty thefts and vandalism. After finding success in one type of crime, they moved on to others, including arson. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough to satisfy the media's insatiable lust for headlines. The 2 young men, Leopold and Loeb, had reached the age of 19 and 18 respectively when they decided to commit the greatest sin in human history. They saw it as a chance to make a name for themselves by planning the perfect crime and attracting the attention of the media. The planning process took 7 months because they wanted to make sure they didn't miss anything. They started acting out the kidnapping and murder after assuming false identities. To hide the true motive for the crime, they decided to set up a ransom and sent out this letter with detailed instructions for the intended recipient to follow. All that was left was to select their victim. Both Loeb and Leopold were familiar with 14-year-old Bobby Franks. He was Loeb's second cousin and next-door neighbor. Franks was a frequent visitor to the Loeb home for tennis matches. On that ill-fated day, May 21, 1924, the men were driving by and enticed him into their rented car, where they proceeded to repetitively strike him in the head with a chisel. He was then gagged and didn't survive for long. They stripped him and covered his genitalia with hydrochloric acid to conceal the fact that he was Jewish due to the boy's circumcision. They then threw Frank's body in a previously explored swamp culvert, 25 miles south of Chicago. Word of Frank's disappearance had already spread by the moment the two men arrived back in Chicago. Using the alias George Johnson, Leopold started calling Frank's mother to inform her that her son had been kidnapped. He then gave her instructions on how to send the ransom. They played cards for the rest of the evening after mailing the typed ransom note demanding $10,000 and torching their blood-stained clothing and cleaning the bloodstains from the upholstery of the rented vehicle. Both sides destroyed any tangible proof they could find to ensure there was no record of the crime. Leopold, in contrast to Loeb's low profile, gave interviews to the press and police. He reportedly told at least one cop, "If I had to kill someone, it would be Bobby Franks because he is a cocky little son of a bitch." It all started when Leopold's glasses were found next to Bobby's body. While the glasses frames and lenses were commonplace, Leopold was one of only 3 people in Chicago to purchase a pair with these peculiar hinges. When asked, he claimed he'd misplaced them while birdwatching the previous weekend. Sadly for them, the ransom note's typewriter, thought to have been destroyed, was later found in a lagoon. After the murder, Leopold's chauffeur revealed the truth, saying that Leopold's car had been in for repairs on the night in question, a story they had made up to cover their tracks about picking up women using Leopold's car. After their deception was exposed, they had no choice but to admit the truth. Both claimed that the other was the murderer and that they were innocent bystanders. They conceded that they did it for the rush, and Leopold, who had been curious about how the murder would affect him, voiced his disappointment at having felt no different afterward. The Loebs spent $70,000, or $1 million in 2020, to hire defense attorney Clarence Darrow to represent them in the upcoming trial of the century, which quickly gained national attention. To wit, Darrow is a highly skilled trial lawyer and was known for his ability to win cases even when the odds were against him. He was especially adept at defending controversial clients and causes, which garnered him a great deal of attention and notoriety. He is an outspoken opponent of the death penalty, based his defense on his client's insanity defense, hoping to avoid the death penalty and receive a life sentence instead. In a 12-hour argument, Darrow gave the best performance of his life. The judge heard Darrow's arguments during the 32-day trial in September 1924 and ultimately handed down a sentence of life without parole for both defendants, plus an additional 99 years for the kidnapping. Loeb's father died of heart failure within a month of their incarceration. Loeb only lived another 12 years, dying at the age of 30 from wounds he received in a razor attack by an inmate. Leopold's post-conviction story is unusual for a criminal because he transformed into a model inmate. His efforts to better the prison were extensive. He volunteered at the prison hospital, taught in the prison school, and rearranged the prison library. His autobiography, Life Plus 99 Years, came out around the same time. After 33 years behind bars and numerous denied parole requests, Carl Sandburg, a well-known poet, helped Leopold get his parole in March 1958 by testifying in his defense. The author tried to use the money from his book to start a charity after his release. Helping emotionally disturbed, retarded, or delinquent youths was one of the stated goals of the Leopold Foundation. However, he was not allowed to renew his charter because it was against the terms of his parole. He was hired as a medical technician at a hospital in Puerto Rico run by the Christian charity Brethren Service Commission, and he was also given a place to live. After uprooting to pursue postgraduate studies in Puerto Rico, he met and married Trudy Feldman, a widowed florist. He went to the University of Puerto Rico, where he eventually got his master's degree and ended up teaching. His career path led him to study leprosy at the University of Puerto Rico School of Medicine, work for an urban renewal and housing agency, and eventually become a researcher in the social service program of the Puerto Rico Department of Health. His corneas were donated to those in need after his death on August 29, 1971, from a heart attack brought on by diabetes. Our in-depth examination of Leopold and Loeb's story comes to a close here. Although this case occurred almost a century ago, it is still highly topical because of the questions it raises about the bounds of human morality and the perils of unchecked privilege. Please subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed this video and would like to see more similar videos in the future. Until then, I hope you will maintain your natural inquisitiveness and join me in investigating the shadowy, mysterious depths of the past. We appreciate you taking the time to watch.